Should you understand plot structures for short films if you're writing a short film? Most definitely. Will knowing this stuff, technical term, lead to better films? Absolutely, all day, every day, twice on a Sunday. And welcome to Plot Structures, part 2 of how to write a short film. Maybe you're writing your first script. Maybe you're in film school and you get recommended videos like this to watch. Maybe you already know all this stuff and you're just looking for a refresher. In either case, I'm happy you're here. What are plot structures? Simple. They're the elements that comprise the story. Why should you care about this if you're writing a short film? Well, plot structures are like ingredients for a pizza. Your story, which is the pizza, will have these ingredients in it whether you know what they are or not. But if you understand what the ingredients are and how to use them, well, you're probably gonna make a better pizza. What's the difference between a short film and a feature? Don't they both follow the same 3-act structure? Well, yes and no. If by 3-act you mean they both have a beginning, a middle, and an end, then yes, pretty much every story has this. But when it comes to storytelling, a short film is a completely different animal than a feature film. Allow me to elaborate. Depending on which framework you follow, here are the plot structures you can expect to find in a feature film. More or less. Features are significantly more complex than shorts, if you want to do them well, anyway. If looking at the list makes you feel like this, relax, my guy. You do not need all of this for a short film, okay? There just ain't enough time for all this madness. Here's what you need to know about short films. Simple is better. A short can be anywhere from a minute to 40 minutes long, and you can still tackle complex subject matter despite having simple plot structures. Very possible. The short film Full Time is a prime example of this. It's essentially a big, well-crafted metaphor, illustrating the toxic dynamic between the working class and the wealthy. Very well done film. But it's a simple film. Emphasis on simple. As we open the kimono on plot structures, I will be referencing the short film Signs as an example. It is over a decade old, I know, but I like using it. It's such a good example. So first we have the setup. This is the beginning of the story. This is where you're introducing the audience to the characters or your protagonist, right? The tone, the genre. We're setting up the story. You're pretty much giving the audience all the information they need to know in order for you to tell the rest of the story. This is also called the exposition. You can set a story up in 30 seconds. You can set a story up in 5 minutes. It depends on the story you're trying to tell. A good rule of thumb when it comes to the setup, it should be as brief as humanly possible. A common mistake is people spending way too much time on the setup. If you got a 2-minute short film and you're spending 5 minutes on setup, this will be your audience. Let's take a look at how they did it in Signs. We open with Jason as he rises out of bed and goes about his morning routine. Notice the lack of overall energy and the lack of smiles. Jason doesn't appear to be a happy guy. He spots a beautiful woman on the way to work and avoids eye contact. Seems like a shy guy. It does not seem like this guy could be any more bored with his job, or his life for that matter. On his lunch break, he spots another woman, and this happens. Without words, we instantly know what Jason wants. He wants a partner. He's a lonely guy. He's a fish out of water in the board meetings, more lovey-dovey on the ride home, a reminder of what he doesn't have. He comes home to an empty apartment, has dinner by himself, hits the sack, and we have just watched a day in Jason's life. This is the setup for Signs. 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the film, we know who we're following, we know what his problem is, and we know what he wants. He wants love. Next, we have the inciting incident, or the catalyst. This is where we introduce the main problem the protagonist must solve. Or it's the big opportunity the protagonist must explore. It's not always a bad thing. This is usually very easy to spot because it's the one event that sort of changes everything. It takes the status quo and shakes it up. Let's take a look at Signs. At about 3 minutes and 10 seconds, this happens. He sees a lovely woman in the neighboring building and they introduce themselves via written signs. All kinds of cuteness all day, every day, twice on Sundays. This is the inciting incident for the story. Jason now has an opportunity to find love. Remember, the inciting incident doesn't always have to be a problem. Sometimes it's an opportunity, as evidenced here. Next up, we have the rising action. The protagonist now has a goal. The rising action is about everything that the protagonist does to achieve that goal and the conflict they face along the way. In love stories, this is usually where they get to know one another and the relationship progresses. In general, the stakes should raise, or the conflict should intensify. Big thing to remember, okay? Conflict, conflict, conflict. We need the conflict. Note, if the character doesn't have a goal, there can be no rising action. The rising action and the goal go hand in hand. Somebody needs to be trying to do something in order order for there to be conflict, right? If nobody's trying to do anything, you're gonna have a hard time building things like suspense and tension. On a side note, if you've been wanting to make short films, but you can't bring yourself to make anything because you haven't found the perfect idea that gets you going yet, maybe you've got a busy schedule, so it's really hard for you to make films with your friends. If this sounds like you should download my free guide below. I walk you through step by step how you can make simple films that pack a big punch in 10 simple steps, okay? And how to do this with the resources you've already got. If you want to nip these issues in the bud and get to shooting, you should download the guide. Link below. Back to our example. Now my guy Jason wakes up with some pep. The relationship between Jason and Stacy progresses. We get some cute little fun and games action. As the relationship progresses, we're raising the stakes because now Jason's got something to lose, right? Because he's got something going on right now. Him and Stacy have a whole vibe going. Life's not so boring while Stacy's in the picture. Imagine that. Conflict. Jason wants to ask her to meet, but he just can't muster the courage. So he practices the ask in the mirror, because, you know, we all do that. Relatable. Obstacle. The next day, my guy rushes to work to pop the question, and Shorty ain't there. She ain't there, man. She gone. That girl gone. Conflict. Jason tastes the bitter fruit of defeat as he descends back into the boring rigmarole that was his life. It's just so sad. But all is not lost, as the next day we learn that Stacy's gone because, well, she got a promotion. So he finally pops the question. All of this is the rising action for Signs. And this leads us to the climax. We all know what happens at the climax. It's the most exciting moment in the film. All the conflict comes to a head, yada, yada, yada. The whole film builds to this moment, right? Enough said. Our young would-be couple rush to the streets of whatever city this is to meet each other. This is the big moment, right? We've been waiting for this for the whole bloody short film. It's a magical moment, all the dopamine, all the feels, super cute, and yeah. And last but not least, we have the resolution. This is the falling action and the end of the short film. We resolve any remaining tensions, we tie up loose ends. The resolution of a short film can be anywhere from a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes. Sometimes the resolution is literally part of the climax, like the same scene. The falling action and the resolution of this film is all of 8 seconds. Jason kind of smiles and we can assume this is the start of a beautiful relationship. Cut to black. A few common questions I get. Can you have a short film where the plot structure's out of order? Yes. If you're telling a story out of chronological order, then yes, the story structure can be out of order. When do you actually apply story structure? Is it in the writing? Is it in ideation? Is it after you do a few drafts? When do you actually do it? Well, everybody's process is different, but here's the order of operations that I have found to work best. Step 1, you just come up with the idea first. Step 2, you flesh out the idea. You know, this is the whole you're thinking of your story in the shower bit. Once you're certain you've got the bones of your story down, then you do step 3, you identify the plot structures. Guys, you can do this in like 5 minutes. Doesn't take very long. And then step 4, you actually write the script. Why do I recommend this order? Because there's no point in thinking about plot structures to a story you're not even sure you're committed to making yet. Do I think of story structure every time I write a short film? When I first started out, yes. But these days, once you really understand plot structures, it's a lot like riding a bike. You don't have to think about riding a bike, you just do it. It's second nature at this point. But when you're just starting out, I highly recommend you do this every single time you sit down to write a short, so you get used to identifying these structures. And you should try spotting them in the films that you watch as well. By the way, if you want to build things like suspense and tension in your films, I highly suggest you check out this next video where I cover the fundamental principles of drama. These are the essential ingredients you need to have in your films in order to be able to create things like suspense and tension. I think you get the point. I'll see you over there.